Advisory Group meeting. My name is Rose McKinney James, and I am the facilitator for your meeting tonight. And as usual, we like to begin with a warm welcome, acknowledging that this is Women's History Month, and so many opportunities to lift up the contributions of women throughout our country and culture who've made strong contributions, including those who are participating as members of the EAG. So let's make that point. And we like to go forward with a safety moment and also now our equity moment. And if I may, I'd like to turn the safety moment over to Lisa. And the equity moment, I think, is for Glenda. So Lisa, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rose. Hello, everyone. Good to see you again. Happy first day of spring. Our safety moment today is going to be about spring safety. So just a few tips to help you guys be safe out there this spring. One, check the weather. Even though it is bright and sunny right now, as we all know, we can encounter several types of weather in one day here in Washington. Packing things like umbrellas, boots, or hats could help you throughout the day. If you're feeling the urge to get into some spring cleaning, just making sure that you read all the warning labels on the products before you use them. Thirdly, applying sunscreen when outdoors. So using sunscreen regularly can help you prevent things like sunburn, skin cancer, and prevent aging. I know we're all thinking about that these days. And then lastly, beware of insects. So with the sun being out, there is an increase in number of insects buzzing around. So looking for things and checking your surroundings for things like hornet's nests and ant pals can help you this spring. And I will turn it back over to you, Rose. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Very, very helpful guidance. We don't always take advantage. We talk about sunscreen, but insects, as they come out of their creepy little places, I think it's important to think about. Glenda, let me turn it over to you for our equity moment.
Hi, everyone. My name is Glenda Dodolao. If you could please turn to the next slide. So today I wanted to focus on the distributional justice. Distribution of benefits and burdens across populations aims to ensure marginalized and vulnerable populations do not receive an inordinate share of the burdens or are denied access to benefits. So I wanted specifically to focus on making sure that we're ensuring the reach to people who are most impacted by injustices. So when we're developing tools, resources, or information for our communities, just some examples and reminders for us. So listen and partner with community. Partner with community representatives as content advisors. So if you are able to, in your process, have listening sessions or focus groups, and depending on the community that you want to reach, think about the medium, right? There are community members who comes from oral traditions. So maybe for those kind of communities, maybe use videos when you're creating your tools and resources. Also write in simple language. It makes it easier to translate. Also, like, use language that the community are already using. So this comes in with your community partnerships. Have them help you verify the words that you're using and making sure that the words that you're using translates well for that community. The other one is design in a way that honors linguistic and cultural traditions. Let's see. So for this one, again, with your cultural partners, use designs of that community. So if there are certain patterns that they already use in their cultural traditions or practices, work with the partners to select pictures that you want to use for your flyers or in your videos. The other one is translate and validate. For this one, partner with your community partners to make sure that the language and format is something that the community understands. Like, make sure that you're using multiple people to make sure that the translation is correct, and make sure that the people understands what you're trying to convey. And then last but not least, allow communities to customize and scale your materials to meet their needs. So don't just PDF it and send it to community members. Allow them to take the materials that you have. Maybe they want to put pictures that they already are using, or want to be able to put their logo so that they can distribute it more into the community that they're already reaching. There were some, I don't have it with me, there were some free resources and tools available that you can use. So for example, for designing, you can use, I'm sorry, Lisa, I don't have it on my phone, but there's some free
I just put it in the chat for you, Glenda.
Lisa put it in the chat, so
yes.
She made the resource available.
Yeah, so there are free resources available out there where you can use photos and actually design tools like Canva, Animoto, Pictochart, where you can create videos and all of these free tools that we can use when we're creating our resources. So that's it for today.
Yes, thank you so much. That is incredibly helpful, and I think the team will certainly benefit from your research and your focus. It definitely allows us to apply the equity lens. So thank you very much, Glenda, for your thoughtful equity moment. All right, if we can have the next slide, I think we're going to go through our next steps. These are the facilitator requests, and as usual, beginning with the observers, we ask you to respect the fact that this is the EAG meeting, and we certainly have provided time for you to join in comments, but this is the time for the members of the EAG to discuss the topics on the agenda. For the EAG and participants, we always appreciate your willingness to listen, to offer diverse opinions and views. Please continue to be active. You're always constructive, and you're always respectful of the role of the facilitator. So these are our requests, and we'll move to the next slide. As I've mentioned, we have a public comment period set for tonight at 7 p.m. We'll provide specific instructions on how you can join. We provide two options: the live stream, which allows you to watch the meeting through YouTube, and at the appropriate time, you can be prepared to provide verbal comments. And we specify that we take the first 5 individuals and ask that you keep it to 2 minutes. Next slide. Here is our agenda. We are very fortunate to have a number of presenters here tonight. We will have our PSE and EAG updates from the steering committee and PSE management team. We'll go into a conversation around the IIJA grant application and the opportunity for an EAG endorsement, take our break. And then we'll go into presentations on the multi-tenant solar concept and a refresh on commercial batteries. And for that part of the agenda, we're going to have breakout groups to allow the EAG to engage in some additional conversation on those topics. Then we'll go to our next steps. And as I've indicated, we will finally have the public comment before adjournment. Next slide, please. Here are the actual objectives. As I've indicated, we're looking for relevant updates from PSE and our EAG committees. We'll discuss the IIJA grant application from PSE. This is the second time that they are submitting an application. And so Nate will be here to give you an overview of that. And then we'll have a conversation around multi-tenant solar, a concept that PSE is bringing forward, and a refresher on their efforts to support commercial batteries. Next slide. And now I'd like to turn it over to, I think, Kara, and then to Troy. But Troy Houston, who is our Director of Energy Equity and Energy Equity, I don't know why you're there twice, maybe because you're twice as good. But in any event, Troy, I guess I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, I'll go ahead and get started, and I'll hand it over to TJ and the team, and then we'll come back and go over to Kara. So the updates I have from PSE, we're we're making good progress with the facilitator recruitment. We're still targeting the end of April to have someone onboarded, and that, as I said, is going really well. We're responding to data requests from the GRC filing, and that's also going well, but keeping us busy. Preparing this week for our compliance filing for the distributional equity analysis pilot that we're doing in partnership with the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. I know a few of you are participating on the steering committee for that project, and we have had a couple of conversations with you on that work. Once we make that filing, we'll at some point later on in the year come back and have a discussion about that, because it affects so much of the distributional justice work that we're focused on as well. And then we have a couple of updates from the CEIP. Pull that up here. I want to remind you that the commission will hold a recess open meeting. That will happen on Friday. That's this Friday at 9. We'll put the details in the chat for anyone that's interested in observing and or commenting during the meeting. If you have any questions, reach out to Lisa and she can connect you, or feel free to reach out to Kara, Brian, or Ray directly. Based on your feedback, we'll be hosting an EAG 101 training session along with onboarding the new EAG member towards the end of April. More information to follow on that. With respect to the equity forum, we're working on this year's forums, and we're interested, any of you interested in being on the planning committee, please let us know. You can indicate that in the chat or reach out to Lisa following the meeting. For the EAG recruitment interview, we're seeking at least one member to take part in the interview process next month. So as usual, you will be compensated for your participation. And then for the steering committee update, based on your feedback, the team is exploring a collaboration tool that will take the form of a shared Google document or WhatsApp chat thread. This will allow you to chat with one another and share events outside of the EAG. This tool will launch after the new member onboarding process is complete. So between the end of April and beginning of May, updates will be provided via email in the near future. And then based on your feedback, the outreach team has created an events calendar to include a variety of engagements for you to participate in. Lisa will share that information with you in a follow-up email along with how to access and sign up for events. So with that, I will hand it over to TJ and the team to talk about the Green Power Solar Grant.
Thank you, Troy. And just before you welcome them, you did mention the GRC, and maybe you could flesh out what that is for the members.
Oh yeah, so at last meeting we discussed the filing of our general rate case. Sorry for the acronym, Rose. Thank you. And we had a discussion about that. So this is a follow-on to that general rate case.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do what we can to make sure that we include fewer, I guess, acronyms to the extent that we can, but we live in a world where they're just really common. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. All right. TJ's indicating that we will have C begin this conversation on the Green Power Solar Grant.
Oh, hello. Okay, I didn't expect that, but we are good to go. So over the last few months, TJ, Jenny, and I have sat on the review panel for this is a mouthful, Green Power Solar Grants, GPSG, another acronym to remember, which basically reviews applications from certain community entities like frontline service communities or food banks or tribal entities, and their applications for installing like a solar array. And we evaluate them not so much on the technical criteria, but on sort of like their role in the community and kind of the way that they practice and incorporate equity in their own organization. And TJ, Jenny, and I have written a little shared doc that I think we can all kind of like chime in on, and I welcome people to interrupt me because I have a tendency to blab on. So maybe Jenny, you can get us started.
Sure. Hello, everyone. So we just kind of, between the three of us, we wanted to each highlight something that we felt went well about the process, something that we felt might have some room for growth, and then maybe one more kind of bonus thought or point kind of thing. So that's kind of the format we'll present to you in. And I'll just kick it off. One of the things that I felt really went well, and this was my second time participating in this process, so it was really great for me to see how much our feedback from, following the last process was really incorporated and implemented into changes and improvements for the next process. In particular, I remember last year I had asked for this resource document to be created, to be provided to the applicants. And I honestly didn't know if it ever got created. And then of course I asked for it this time and it was right there. Mackenzie had it, and it was a great document, that was added to the packet for applicants to have as a resource. So that I feel was really great. TJ, do you want to say what
Sure, I'll jump in. So this was my first time. I was a little on a grant review committee, so I was a little nervous going in. I think I messaged a couple of people on the side, like, what am I supposed to do? How long is this taking you? Like, how do I get started? And everybody was super helpful. I think my favorite part about it is that we all had unique perspectives. So while I might have picked up on one thing on an organization, C or Jenny or Mackenzie or somebody else might have picked up on something completely different. And then just kind of jumping ahead through the process was our feedback was taken so seriously that it led to additional meetings where we got to talk about the process and how to improve it. What could we do better next year? How could we improve the application? How do we give feedback to individuals that applied? It was a super collaborative process and grant review committee. And I would definitely recommend that anybody, especially if you haven't done it before, join in future. I'll pass it to C.
Yeah, thanks. And before I forget, Jenny had mentioned this, I want to give a shout out to the PSE team. Mackenzie Martin was the kind of the organizer of it for the review, but Leslie Myers was also part of our review committee, and Rocio, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, so I really hope I don't butcher it, but it's Castillo Fuel, I think. Yeah, and I agree with TJ that it was a really kind of collaborative and like sort of a good example of a deliberative kind of group effort. And just for context, like Jenny, it's also my second year on the review panel. And like TJ said, hopefully like other people will be interested next year and there'll be kind of like new perspectives for the review panel. And as a second year, I really appreciated that this year we had the same number of EAG folks on the panel as PSE folks. So it was like 3 and 3, which was really nice. The first year that Jenny and I were on, it was like the two of us, and I don't even remember, maybe like 4 or 5 other PSE folks, and that felt a little bit more intimidating because it was our first time and we didn't know how it was going to go. Everybody was really nice. I don't want to say last year everybody was also really kind of open to hearing our perspectives, but it does feel really nice to kind of have an even balance between PSE and EAG members and just more balance in the votes. Yeah, and there was just kind of, to echo TJ, there was always like a really open, welcoming space. I feel like differences were respected and people really practiced listening, and it was really amazing to have my mind changed and to have other people potentially change their minds when we gave feedback. Yeah, I feel like we were always really happy at the meetings. And then the other thing is that this year, after our feedback last year, EAG members were able to weigh in on how the rubric and the scoring broke down, which was really helpful. That was a little bit of a challenge point for me last year because I thought that things like that deserved more weight wasn't weighed as heavily. And so it was really nice that we were really invited to be like a part of every step of that process. Yeah, Jenny, I don't know if you want to talk about room for growth.
Room for growth. Yeah, I just, you know, I think we, and this will, I'm going to say this with the caveat that next month we will be, I know Mackenzie will be back and will be presenting in a lot more detail, you know, about the process moving forward and all of that. So I'm going to say this with not, you know, not being prepared to take a bunch of questions on this. I mean, I'll answer what I can and the team can help, but, you know, one area that we felt would be great for improvement would be to, you know, make sure that we're recruiting, you know, more groups in need and organizations and kind of having a farther reach. For example, we noticed we didn't get any applicants from, I don't know if I should say what county, but a specific county. I don't know if I can say that. I don't know. But there was a specific county that we've received applications in past years, but we didn't this year. And so it's just kind of, you know, we don't know why. And there's always some type of, you know, data that might say why, but also maybe who's getting missed, you know. So that was definitely something that I think all three of us from the EAG side felt would be really helpful, is to really further, you know, define you know, the criteria for an applicant and further define like how far can we reach with this? How far can our community team members you know, really spread the word about this great opportunity? And I'll let TJ or C.
You know, we've talked about how to help, as Jenny mentioned, or organizations who haven't applied before or haven't been awarded before, maybe prioritizing them or seeing how they could have a better chance of getting this grant. So there's been some talks about that, and of course we say that's great, but let's get the word out. I think that's the biggest thing, besides just continually trying to improve the process. Like, how can we make it better next year? How can we improve equity? How can we get a further reach? How do we make the process easier for different kinds of organizations?
Well, it sounds to me like, one, you've enjoyed the process, you've been impactful in the process, and I'm sure there's appreciation on the other side for your participation, because as you've noticed, many of your recommendations have actually been integrated into the program. So I think the full EAG is very grateful for your participation and applying that equity lens to the conversation. So thank you very much for that update. And as you say, there'll be a more detailed presentation coming in the future, but I think each of you did a fabulous job in sharing with us your feedback from that presentation. So EAG members, do you have any questions or comments before we move forward in the agenda? Any thoughts? And as usual, you can feel free to raise your hand or put something in the chat. You're very welcome, TJ. Thank you for being willing to present. Any other thoughts? All right, well, again, oh, Dennis, please.
I just think it's great. I think it's great to hear kind of the results of the second year, how the first year was really good, and how, this, that this team has gone forward again, and from the EAG to work with PSC to make it even better and to keep that enthusiasm and that progress up. I just think it's incredible that, what she and Jenny and and TJ have done. I'm just totally impressed.
Agreed. Thank you,
I
Dennis.
thought you were going to hit us with a hard-hitting question. I was sweating, so thank you, Dennis.
Well, you saw him come off mute and you were already anticipating the hard-hitting question. So instead, you got a fabulous compliment. So that is a good outcome. All right, well, I don't even know what to say about this next slide, but it is what it is. And I think at this point, I will invite Kara. I will say one of the reasons I asked Troy to mention the GRC, or the general rate case, is because Troy's making some history here, because he will participate in that case as a witness for the company with a focus on equity. And I think that's a big deal. So he's too modest to make that point, but I am happy to do so. So Kara, I guess I'm turning it over to you.
I guess you are, Rose. Gosh, after 3 years, it's hard to believe this is going to be our last meeting with you. It has been such a privilege to learn from you and partner with you on this work over the last 3 years. Your passion for equity work, your knowledge of our sometimes geeky little regulated utility space that we operate in, and your passion, your drive in moving this work forward has just been so appreciated by us. You and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but when we brought you on about 3 years ago, this equity work in the clean energy space was brand new, and we might have been a little shell-shocked at times even in working with you. We were building this from scratch, and you were just so instrumental in helping us develop the structure of the EAG, our charter, just really helping us build a thoughtful and strong foundation for this work. We were just so fortunate to be able to partner with you to create this amazing special advisory group that, has now grown to advise PSE on so much more than just clean energy. Also, that the concept of hosting an equity forum came from you. It might have taken us a little while to get there, but your vision and your persistence to see us move that forward was so important. So it just truly has been a privilege to work with you and learn from you, Rose. You've kept us on our toes. You've pushed us out of our comfort zone more times than I can count as we've learned how to lean into this equity space. So I just thank you for being you, for all the contributions you've made. We're grateful, and I will miss you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kara. I really appreciate it. It is hard to believe that it's been 3 years, but I think, oh, Jenny, you have your hand up. No, do you have your hand up? Oh, no. Oh, it's clapping. Thank you. We are going to get through this meeting, but I do want to let each and every one of you know how much I've appreciated the opportunity to work with you. I am really filled with gratitude, because this has been an extraordinarily impactful part of my consulting journey. And working with PSC has actually been a joy. Much of what we've achieved is because they have been open to advancing an equitable foundation. They have been willing to put the resources into this effort, and the manifestation of that is that you are here and that you are working. I want to express my appreciation to each of you, because you are servant leaders and you are forging a path where others will benefit. And as we really think about equity, how important it is to embed it into decision making. So I just want to thank you and all the members of the team. I've said to you before, there are lots of folks behind the scenes that make this happen, and we're all a part of a team that is committed to ensuring that equity becomes centered in the work that we undertake. So I just want to say thank you, and I'll say so long and farewell for now, and wish you all the best.
Well,
So,
Rose, I do want to open it up and see if a few members of the EAG want to continue to say wonderful things about you, and then I'll wrap it up and we can move on to the rest of the agenda.
okay, thank you, Troy. I see Dennis.
Rose, I too have to echo that. I was there at the beginning of the journey with you, and this has been, you're right, it's been a total pleasure working with you. You are the consummate professional.
You go without just saying a few quick things. When I took over this role, I spoke to the board and the executive leadership team, and what I heard was how impactful you were on the way in which we approach this, and in asking for a position like mine to be created. As Kara said, your knowledge as a commissioner, many times I felt like we had a commissioner in the room, making sure that we were approaching this in the right way from that perspective. But also your authentic voice for the customer and for the communities not present in these meetings. You had an authentic ability to do that and to be that voice. And I know the team here at PSE, we really appreciated that. And then, as Amasai said, you were a role model and an inspiration to everyone here, and I know to me in particular. So thank you again. You will be getting a kudo board, I think, from Lisa right now that has comments from the EAG members who were able to participate, so you can have that. And to everyone on the call, Rose has graciously agreed that you can reach out personally and stay in touch and say anything else you'd like to say to her. So with that, thank you again, and I'll hand it back to you to move on with the agenda.
Thank you, Troy. Once again, really grateful for the opportunity and for your leadership, and looking forward to the next chapter. I'll be staying in touch. I'll be keeping an eye on you. So, all right, let's move to the next slide, please. I'd like to invite Cassie and Nate to the next segment of the conversation. As I mentioned, the company is now revisiting the IIJA grants. And as you can see, this is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Cassie and Nate will review the planning from the company's viewpoint, and they are looking to the EAG for feedback and hopefully an endorsement and some more direct participation. But Cassie, let me turn it over to you and Nate to provide the EAG with your thoughts, and welcome.
Yes, thank you, Rose. I thought we could start off with a little introduction. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Cassie Marcos, and if you see any cats scamper onto the screen, their names are Hallie and Annie. They will definitely make an appearance at some point tonight. I'm the manager of public policy and public funding for PSE. I work in our government affairs department. In February, I took over PSE's process for pursuing grant opportunities at the state and federal level. So I'm learning a lot very quickly right now, and appreciate just your patience with me as we work through this. But I'm looking forward to discussing the federal grant application we're currently focused on, and I will turn it over to my colleague Nate to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Nate Davern. I'm the manager of federal and tribal government affairs here at Puget Sound Energy. Those of you on the EAG that have been with the group since its either inception or at least since spring 2023 or sort of fall of 2022 may have seen me in the past. I have previously joined, brief as Rose was saying, our first round of IIJA grants. So we'll even provide a short overview of that. But I'm glad to be with you all again tonight. And I will also add, Rose, thank you for your stewardship over the past 3 years. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start off because I have a little bit of history in working with the EAG and work with the IIJA. So I'm actually going to direct everyone to the right side of the screen first. We're just going to do a quick overview of what it is we're talking about, and the scoping of what we're talking about. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or the IIJA as it's more commonly called, was signed into law in November of 2021. Roughly $70 billion in the bill is allocated for grid level investments. Some of those are opportunities that utilities can apply for. Some of them are opportunities that our customers and other interest groups can apply for, potentially in partnership with utilities. In total, the Department of Energy is looking to award about $4 billion of that 70 towards the Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnerships Grants Program. There are a couple of different opportunities available within what we call the GRIP program, so we'll briefly cover those. If you were a part of the EAG about a year ago, that was the last time you saw us as we were hitting submit on our round 1 applications. Briefly, what we did at that point was we had a little more lead time than we have in round 2, as this was a new process the Department of Energy was going through. Utilities and other operators had a number of touch points with DOE to try and understand what it was that the department was trying to fund, how it was looking to evaluate opportunities, et cetera. And so what we did at that time was we put together a large collection, a very broad categorization of system upgrades. We put them into 2 different GRIP buckets of work. One was a $100 million ask for broadly grid resilience upgrades, so things that would make the grid more reliable in various parts of our service area. And the second was one focused on grid modernization, which was intended to make the grid a little smarter and more adaptable to changes that we saw in real time. Both of those were submitted to the Department of Energy. Neither was granted an award by the Department of Energy. In total, fewer than 10% of applicants to both awards received, or to both grants received awards. And so I believe there was only one outright winner in Washington State, which was Snohomish County's Public Utility District. Back at that time, in March of 2023, we were asking this EAG for a letter of support on our to accompany our application. At that time, this EAG was very receptive to providing the letter of support, but did give us some very pointed feedback in ways that we could better incorporate equity into the next opportunities that we pursued. That will lead into the next slide. And I'll also say that because Cassie and I don't have a lot of slides, we may ask for questions at the end, or feel free to catalog them in the chat and we'll address those as well towards the end of the presentation. So what are our goals? What is it we're trying to achieve this time? First of all, our goal is to improve outcomes for customers. And this time we want to put a much higher focus on equity and addressing the needs of populations in our service territory that are either impacted by hazards, maybe poor electric reliability, or other features of a topography where we are serving electrical power and there may be a need to bolster reliability or resilience in that area. Second, our goal is to partner with a number of different consortiums, community groups, universities. There's an opportunity where we'll be partnering with states in order to sort of interconnect some teams. We want to find more opportunities to partner and leverage learnings throughout the West and alongside the national labs and other consortiums. And then finally, another goal for us in pursuing our IIJA grants this go around, same as last time, we still want to meet and exceed the Justice 40 initiative in both letter and spirit. I'm sure that many folks on this EAG know what the Justice 40 initiative is. When we reference the Justice 40 initiative, we will be talking more specifically about the Biden administration and the federal government's initiative to ensure that at least 40%, if not more than 40%, of project benefits go towards individuals and interests in underserved or vulnerable populations or other named communities. So a number of different sort of elements roll under the Justice 40 initiative, but insofar as we use the term, we're focused on those locations that are identified in the administration's CJES tool and covered under the Justice 40 initiative. And then lastly, our preferred outcome, as it is here in any opportunity we're going to pursue, is going to be to maximize award size while achieving all three of our goals. Maximizing the award size is, as we see it, the way that we drive the most bang for the buck in the communities that we serve. And also this is, it has the opportunity to help displace additional capital resources where we can deploy them elsewhere across our system to, again, accelerate some of the work we have in our clean energy transition. So those are our goals. I'm going to turn it over to Cassie to tell you a little bit about the approach we're taking in round two.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nate. If you wouldn't mind flipping to the next slide, please. So this is the project we're going to focus on tonight. Just a little bit of background. On February 29th, actually, PSE was encouraged by the Department of Energy to move forward with a grant application for our proposed Skagit River Valley Transformation for Climate Resiliency project, covered in maybe too many words on this slide. The full application is due April 17th, so we are working with a very tight timeline, and we will acknowledge that. But specifically focusing on like the very exciting elements of this project, we seek to invest at least $70 million to enhance reliability, resiliency, and energy security to serve disadvantaged and tribal communities in the Skagit River Valley. And that's a part of our service territory that historically had low reliability. It also has high flood threats, which maybe many of you are aware of. It's also an emerging wildfire risk area for our company. So felt like it had these three hazards that were wanting to be addressed. So through the deployment of technology solutions, the project aims to address these risks and provide direct benefits to customers. And that includes reduced frequency and duration of customer outages, real-time awareness to mitigate outage events and threats, and improved power restoration capabilities during major storm events. And right now we are actively partnering with tribal communities, community-based organizations, emergency management professionals, among others, to incorporate feedback on project design, to memorialize more formal partnerships, and really just ensure that benefits are flowing to those communities and those partners, so that we're really just kind of like maximizing these federal dollars for max benefit to both PSE and to these communities. I'll just give an example here. We've been meeting with the Upper Skagit tribe, who are located near where this project is targeting, and they're very supportive of bolstering system reliability and mitigating fire risk for the tribe and its interests. And I'll just take a quick moment here to pause, and Nate's going to share a little bit of color on what a partnership with PSE and the Upper Skagit tribe could look like.
Yeah, this go around in particular, we're really focused on finding a way to document and clearly define what a partnership looks like between PSE and a community partner, in this case, a tribal nation. So starting with Upper Skagit, they were identified as one of the first groups we needed to meet with, in part because a focus of our project would include undergrounding of approximately 23 miles of overhead distribution cable, which we can talk a little bit more about in a second. And the Upper Skagit tribe has got very well documented and historical record of villages in the region along the Baker River and the Skagit River. And so ensuring that, one, the tribe is aware of the project and can join us in identifying areas where they would prefer that we relocate those lines to when we consider undergrounding, that they could monitor activities if for any reason, the tribe needed us to stop work and to better examine an undergrounding location, or to relocate a line, or to do something with an artifact or a piece of history found, they would have sort of direction over where to go and what to do with those resources. In addition to, of course, advising us on other opportunities for mitigating wildfire risk and improving electric reliability service on the tribe's reservation, as well as to its members who live along the river valley. So we've approached them to see how else we can support them and they can support us in our project, and to ensure that they've got the opportunities to, again, document and in a legally definable way, Puget delivering on commitments that we would make as a part of this grant application.
Thanks, Nate. And that's just one example. We're also in conversation with the Washington Department of Natural Resources to coordinate and share notifications from some of the monitoring devices that are proposed in this project to improve real-time awareness and response times for DNR's dispatch services and fire crews, really trying to get at that emerging wildfire risk that I mentioned at the outset. So there are more folks that we're coordinating with. Would also love feedback if there are folks that we could be connecting with. We got some great insight from Marco, a fellow EAG member, to get an understanding of the community, but would again welcome feedback in the later part of our conversation about that. But overall, we do believe this project brings value to the community. Just a few that come to mind are just enhancing safety, mitigating risk, creating jobs, and providing workforce development opportunities, including for tribal members, underrepresented workers, and broadly the regional workforce. We plan to utilize union workers for high living wages and apprenticeship opportunities. And again, we just can continue to commit to partnership with these community-based organizations, tribes, and other anchor organizations to make sure we're delivering on what we say we're going to deliver. So with that, I'd love to go to the next slide, please. So as Nate mentioned, we have some lessons learned from round one. We're iterating on this process. So we decided to really lean into the federal climate and economic justice screening tool, which is a tool that was developed to support the Justice 40 initiative at the federal level, to really identify project locations that would deliver at least 40% benefits to federal designated disadvantaged communities and tribal communities in line with the Justice 40 initiative. So instead of taking that kind of a quality approach and looking system-wide, we've decided to focus in on a very targeted area that we knew had some unique challenges and had some unique populations that could benefit from federal grant funding. So this tool identifies the Skagit River area as a high-risk disadvantaged community. You can see that's indicated in blue. And that's based on this community being in the upper percentiles for flood risk, natural hazard casualty events, projected wildfire risk, as well as poverty indicators. So given those findings, we again just thought there was an opportunity to design a project that mitigates risk and leverages some of our unique assets in that region, namely like the upper and lower Baker Dam as a tool in helping deliver these benefits. So at this point, based on some calculations and number crunching, we think that this project could deliver 80% of benefits to federally designated disadvantaged communities. So we feel very confident in that. So again, federal funding for this project would deliver benefits to these communities that would not otherwise realize them. And that's really about the economics of the project, because it's a pretty small area, a low customer count. There's only roughly 2,000 customers that would get direct benefits. While we think there would be some larger indirect benefits that would benefit more customers, the economics of the project are really what is driving us to seek federal funding for this. So we think with funding for the grant, we'd be able to deliver a holistic project that has a suite of technology solutions and investments that could be engineered and constructed by 2028, ideally. But without funding, we would likely have to scale back the ambition of the project and the timeline to focus on other high-risk areas of our service territory, likely that serve more customers. So again, just a unique opportunity to create a region of reliability, resiliency, and energy security to benefit this community in this area. Next slide, please. And this is just to provide a little bit more context. I know sometimes the federal and state can be apples and oranges when it comes to kind of disadvantaged communities, but this is overlaying our targeted sites with maps that show the deepest need, high vulnerability, highly impacted communities, and equity investment zone layers. That's the thrust of the content that I have tonight. I know that I can turn it over to my colleague Algie to talk about next steps in EAG assistance, and then we can also take questions.
That would be great. Welcome, Algie. I'm sorry I didn't mention you in the introduction, but this is a critical part of the conversation. Thank you, Cassie and Nate.
Yeah, thank you, Cassie and Nate and Rose. And thank you for everyone to be here in such a nice sunny day outside. And you dedicated your time to be here with us. So really appreciate it. My name's Algie. I work in Troy Hudson's energy equity team. And if we don't mind forwarding the slide to the next. And I have the opportunity to chat with you about the next step, what we want to do. But before I get there, and Cassie mentioned that, Marco, you had a chance to speak with both Nate and Cassie about a little bit about this. I'm curious if I can invite you, Marco, into the space, and if you can share your reflection with us on what you hear about this project. I'd love to hear your insight if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good project. When I was talking to Nate and Cassie, I think one of the things that I find the most helpful and that really meets the mission of our work is the partnership that they have with the local tribes here in the Skagit Valley. And so I was really, really happy to hear that, that they were working really closely with them and being respectful of culture and of sites. And I do think that this can lead to other opportunities that maybe we're not seeing now, in terms of like the usage of like the camera. They talked to me about some cameras that will be out in those rural areas. And I think for me, it's always about figuring out how to leverage the resources that we're putting out in those spaces, particularly for other things that we might be not thinking about in the moment. But I also want to invite, my colleagues in the chat to maybe share their thoughts. I did see that Amy had a comment in Megan also, so I will also let them jump in.
Thank you, Marco.
Well, I see the next steps, Algie. It is very helpful to have the reflection of an EAG member who understands that part of the community. And so we're grateful to you, Marco, for your participation. But maybe if we can walk through the actual ask, then we can get into some more questions. And EAG, if it's okay with you, we may have to push the brake a little bit. And then Ann and Sam, I'm going to give you sort of fair warning that you may have to tighten up your presentations a little bit so we can get back on track. So if Algie, if you if you want to flesh out a little more the actual ask, then I will do my best to facilitate any questions from the EAG.
Thank you, Rose. Yeah, this project do have a tight timeline. April 17th, as mentioned before, is on here. And so in our immediate ask, we would like to see if EAG would endorse a letter of support for us on this. I think the PSE team have a really solid foundation for this round 2. As mentioned before, our concept paper from the Department of Energy had, quote, said, encouraged us to submit a full application, and there's no additional feedback checkboxes was in the letter coming back to us. So I think we're feeling pretty good about our proposal and our application. So now we're coming to you, direct ask. I think that we will have, like, our application will be just so much stronger if we have your endorsement on this. And again, acknowledging it's a really tight timeline, but we will provide a draft letter. It wouldn't be just out of the blue. We'll ask you to write something. We'll provide that and hope you can guide us and help us develop a really strong letter to send over with our application. So that's the immediate ask. And the other immediate ask is that we know that you're experts out in the world, and your expertise span across so many different space. And we would love to ask you to help us to identify folks, either community-based organizations, whoever that you know that would think will help us in this project to expand our engagement. Who do we need to talk to? Give us a name, and that'll be really helpful. And then so during our application process, we can reach out to these folks and then be able to get a better sense of how we can really build a strong project and an application. I'm really competitive, and I know that some PSC folks might say, oh, yeah, we want to win it, but we want to win this. We really want to get the community to have that benefit. I think it's a really strong project. Now, on the right side, you'll see a long-term step. The long-term step is really asking if we get this grant, which, like I'm saying, I really do hope that we do. EAG committee, your advisory group will undoubtedly be invited to participate and be involved with the process in the future. And then I hope, that EAG members will accept the offer of coming to our meeting or project meetings and things like that to help us and guide us in the equity arena when we're developing this project if we get the grant. So those are the 2 areas of steps. And
Thank you, Algie. Very helpful. Very helpful. And I think we have some framing. First off, we have a couple of questions in the chat. We have a question from Megan, a couple of questions from Megan. But if I may, 3 things. The overall framing is around, climate resilience. It includes very strong partnerships with the communities that will be impacted by the projects. And it is going to work within the spirit of Justice 40. There's a link in the chat to Justice 40, but let me just give you a quick summary. Justice 40 is about using 40% of the overall benefits of federal investment so that they flow to disadvantaged communities that are marginalized, underserved, and overburdened by pollution. That is the focus of Justice 40. So you wrap that up into the larger focus of IIJA, which is infrastructure and jobs, and it kind of gives you a feel for what PSE has designed for this application. And with that, maybe we can start by attempting to address Megan's question. I don't see any hands up, but please come off mute if what you need. The next step, as you've outlined, Algie, will be to circulate a letter of support. And I'm sure the team will work with you to figure out how best to expedite it, to provide your review and input. And we thank you for your time, and we appreciate this presentation. Thank you, Cassie, Nate, and Algie. And I think we're going to move on to what is going to be a very quick stretch break, where I'm going to ask you to turn off your camera for a minute, move your eyes away from the screen, and then maybe stretch and then come back. And Sam and Ann, as you prepare, we want to think about how we're going to approach the Q&A so we can catch up on some timing, but I'm going to turn to the EAG for their thoughts. So thank you, and let's go to break for a minute. An update from PSC with some very exciting updates. And I'd like to welcome Ann Marshall. Ann is the Strategy Development Manager for PSC, and she is going to give us an update on the Commercial Battery Energy Storage System Initiative. How's that? Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Rose, and thank you all so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and get some feedback from you all on commercial batteries. Like Rose said, I'm a strategy development manager at PSC and working on developing a new product for a battery product for commercial customers. We're currently in the ideate phase of product development for commercial batteries. So if you think back to the presentation Mackenzie gave last month, we're quite a bit earlier in the design process than the residential batteries and solar buyback products you heard about back in January. So for this, for today, we're really just looking for feedback on the general approach and next steps. So you can go to the next slide. So the vision for our commercial battery program is to provide commercial customers an offering that increases their resiliency and contributes to their clean energy goals while also providing capacity to the grid. So customers will get the benefit of backup power during outages, compensation for PSC's use of the battery's capacity, and the possibility of demand charge reduction. And PSC will gain a capacity resource and deferred distribution equipment upgrades. Next slide. So during the DER community engagement we did back in late 2022 and into early 2023, we had the opportunity to talk to our commercial customers about batteries, and these are the benefits and barriers that rose to the top. The most important benefit we heard from batteries is the personal and community energy resiliency, followed by the ability to store renewables when paired with solar, financial compensation, whether that's by reduced utility bills or a new revenue stream, energy independence, and being an active participant in the clean energy transition. On the barrier side, the biggest cause of concern was cost, and that included both the upfront costs for installation and the ongoing costs for maintenance. Commercial customers were also concerned about having enough space to install a battery, navigating the complexities of installation, including administrative approvals, safety and cybersecurity concerns for assets that communicate directly with PSE, and the environmental impacts of a battery's life cycle. Next slide. So similar to our other products, we will have an enhanced incentive for equity-focused customers, and following along the same lines as the Green Power Solar Grants, qualifying customers will include community-based organizations, tribes, and government agencies that serve named communities like food banks or community centers. We will also prioritize customers that can act as resiliency hubs and serve deepest need customers. Although we aren't as far along in the product design as we are for solar buyback and residential batteries, you all provided a lot of really great feedback in the January meeting that we will be able to incorporate into the product design of commercial batteries as well. So for an example, in addition to providing higher incentive levels and upfront information on the projected life cycle costs for future maintenance, repair, and disposal, we'll also provide resources to help applicants leverage other resources to reduce or eliminate out-of-pocket costs like IRA tax credits, for example. For installation concerns, we will provide referrals to recommended energy professionals who will provide technical assistance to ensure the project meets both the customer's needs and qualifies for PSE's program. We will also work to simplify the application using plain talk, make application materials accessible in multiple languages and on multiple devices, and make it as clear as possible so that we avoid applications from those who are unlikely to be successful. We will provide educational resources for environmental impacts of the battery's life cycle and contact information for recyclers, and similarly for safety and cyber security concerns, providing information resources in plain talk, and of course, following industry best practices to reduce any risk upfront. All right, so the next slide, we are looking for feedback from you on any concerns or suggestions for improvement you have on the current approach and what populations you would prioritize for the enhanced equity incentives. Our next steps will be to score and select a product concept and move forward into product design and development and tariff filing. And similar to what we did for the residential batteries and solar buyback product, we'd like to come back to the EAG to do a review of the customer journey before product launch. So that's all the content that I had. I really appreciate all your input and feedback, and look forward to hearing your thoughts. Oh, Rose, I think you're on mute.
3 years. Okay. Thank you. Do any of the EAG members have any immediate questions for Ann? The plan is to allow you an opportunity to have some more deep discussion on this program, as well as the new multi-tenant solar concept. We could combine them. We were thinking about breakout groups, but given the time and the fact that we want you to have as much time for questions as possible, we think we might sort of combine them. So unless you have immediate questions for Ann, maybe we'll go to the next presentation, and then we will have a joint conversation about both of these opportunities. Does that work? Okay, I see head shaking. Is that good for you as well, Ann? Okay, great. All right, then I am going to ask Sam to...
I had a super quick, that's a great question, Emily, thank you. It is still very early on in product design, so we haven't gotten to that level of detail, but that's great feedback that we will definitely take into consideration as we're kind of putting together the overall ownership and financial picture of this product.
Okay, any other quick questions? And please just come off mute if I don't see you. Thanks, Emily, for, you know the drill. All right, if not, then I'm going to turn it over to Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Rose. Yeah, folks, I appreciate your time and thank you for this opportunity. I have a program concept to share with y'all called Multi-Tenant Solar. Tenant is referring to renters in most cases, but we are opening it up to the concept of, say, a tribal community has a commercial property and those lessees are tenants. So it may be predominantly renters in a landlord property, or it could be a commercial property we'll speak to. So kind of give you a background to this product concept. This program is part of our clean energy implementation plan. It's a specific action to help us achieve our goal of having an electric supply free of greenhouse gases by 2045. And so this product concept is to try to encourage adoption of solar projects by people and to increase access to renters specifically, or tenants in this case. So this Rose, if you would go to the next slide for me, please. To give you kind of a illustrative example, I'll refer to this in a couple times. And so in my mind, it's the Housing Authority, King County Housing Authority, or pick your friend who's looking to have, and in this example, a solar array, and they want to provide benefit to 4 of the tenants. All of those tenants in this example could be income eligible, they could be equity participants in a number of different dimensions, but those 4 tenants would receive benefit through participation in this project by the allocation of the energy off of that solar array onto those customers' bills. So each of those individual meters each month would receive some crediting from that solar array by virtue of participation in this multi-tenant arrangement. So a lot depends upon the landlord and then the tenants participating, but we're trying to encourage the adoption of solar, so getting more landlords into this program and the tenants participating to receive that electricity benefit. So Rose, please go ahead and put questions in chat, or if you have any comments on this program concept. There's 2 slides here. This first one's around the benefits and impacts. So we really want to make sure that seek to understand any kind of concerns or suggestions around the outcomes of this program. And then we'll get into another aspect. But on this slide, you've got some examples of options we've considered. So do we want to focus on trying to reach the landlords? Maybe providing some benefits that kind of reduce the cost. There's some program funds from the state that might be eligible for community solar projects that could apply to this type of program to increase the adoption of those programs. So promoting federal funding or state funding sources might be an avenue to consider, or it could be the different approach where we want to ensure that the tenants receive some additional value or benefit in participating in this kind of arrangement. So in terms of the outcomes that we're seeking, we definitely want the benefits to flow by virtue of participation in this program, but then looking for access, or is there some other measurable outcome that you can suggest or look towards this kind of arrangement to be created? I'll go to the last slide here so we can have some time for questions and comments. This portion of the slide is understanding, again, the tenant-landlord relationship. And we're looking to make sure there's more of these projects to make sure it's successful. How do we market to the folks? Is it to encourage the tenants to become aware of this program and then reach out to the landlord so that they can create this kind of arrangement? Or is it more focused on trying to reach landlords, CBOs, tribal entities, government agencies, et cetera, to make them aware of this product so that they can have this arrangement set up, and then the tenants just happen to live in one of these properties and benefit from that arrangement? So a lot of different opportunities for us, some tactics suggested on here. I'm going to go ahead and stop because I'd love to hear some feedback on this, and hopefully I can clarify or get to some of the comments and questions.
It's been a very beneficial conversation, and we caught up on our timing. So it's all good. So thank you very much, Sam and Ann. And I guess I will now move to our next steps. And clearly there will be a ton of follow-up from the meeting. As usual, we certainly collect your thoughts and comments so that we can identify any action items. The team will be attentive to those. And let's note that we are coming to the end of not only my tenure, but the end of this year, this segment of the year, and there will be no meetings in April. So you can push the refresh button, and the very next meeting for the EAG will be May 21st, again from 5 to 7. So we'll look forward to that. And now I will turn to public comment.